anything to report from executive session?
No, there is not.
Okay. Looks like we are on to new business, public safety and services.
Thank you. This evening I have two resolutions and an agreement for the board approval on behalf of the Public Services Department, but on behalf of the public safety entities, we have a resolution for the board to establish Colerain Township as a Hamilton County Public Health District We Thrive community, and if the board would oblige, I'd like to read it so folks understand exactly what we're doing with this partnership. Whereas a partnership with the Hamilton County Public Health District leverages and maximizes resource tools and provides subject matter experts and can provide benefit to the overall health, safety, and welfare of Colerain Township residents. Whereas engaging in Hamilton County Public Health District's We Thrive initiative generates a broad-based support for creating healthy environments where residents live, work, learn, and play. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Colerain Township, Hamilton County, Ohio as follows. Number one, Colerain Township hereby recognizes the importance of public health efforts to prevent diseases, protect children, adults, and families, promote healthy living principles, and improve the overall health and vitality of Colerain Township. In light of the foregoing considerations, Colerain Township fully supports Hamilton County Public Health District's We Thrive initiative. Number two, Colerain Township has an established committee that recommends partnering with the We Thrive team. The team consists of members representing the Colerain Township administration, Colerain Fire and Police Departments, the local school district, as well as representatives of the Colerain Township business community. The We Thrive team will be responsible for leading community health and wellness efforts and serving as a liaison between Colerain Township and Hamilton County Public Health District. Colerain Township authorizes the We Thrive team to select at least one pathway and work through each pathway's process with representatives from Hamilton County Public Health District. The Colerain Township We Thrive team will collaborate with Hamilton County Public Health District on an ongoing basis to work through additional pathways existing or newly established to improve the overall health and well-being of our community. Number four, the Colerain Township We Thrive team shall designate a representative to participate in the We Thrive Community Learning Collaborative facilitated by the Hamilton County Public Health District. Colerain Township We Thrive team shall report back to the Board of Trustees regarding steps taken to implement this resolution, additional steps taken, planned, and any desired actions that would need to be taken by the Board of Trustees or other agencies or departments to implement steps taken or planned. Six, it is hereby found and determined that all formal actions of this board concerning and relating to the passage of this resolution were taken in an open meeting of this board, and all deliberations of this board and any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were taken in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. And seven, the board by a majority vote hereby dispenses with the requirement this resolution to be read on two separate days and hereby authorizes the adoption of the resolution upon its first reading. Ask for the board's approval.
So moved. Second. Aye.
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 Thank you. Just as a follow-up, I have a second resolution specific to this related to the pathway, but just to give you a little background why this is important. The community, the township as a whole, recognize just as many other communities that the influence of addictive opiate behavior, or the issue of heroin, is across the region, across the United States, most likely. That we chose to become proactively engaged in this process to learn about it, understand about it, and work with our community to try and reduce some of the harm associated with it. That's when we brought in the groups from police and fire, some community recovery folks, our business community, a lot of our human resource folks, our human resources department, things of that nature, so we could better understand what is happening, what we can do to address it, and educate some of our businesses and some of our folks within our community. We had the opportunity to meet with the Hamilton County Public Health District. They proposed the We Thrive partnership as a means to identify trends as associated with illnesses and chronic issues within the township, and upon this signage will begin an epidemiologic study to learn what's actually happening within our community, whether it be based on newborns or elderly or any of those kinds of things, so we can better understand it. Our pathway at this time, specific to the resolution I'm going to read, is allow us to move forward with this opiate epidemic issue. And in fact, we're having a public forum and panel discussion on February 25th at the Clifford Instruments facility on Colerain Avenue from 6:30 to 8 just to discuss this issue. We've invited Representative Blessing and some other folks, the Ohio Attorney General's office, to be present, and as well as some Community Recovery Project folks to let us really understand what we can do for our community. So I'm going to read the second resolution, which is establishing Colerain Township's commitment to community health. Whereas Colerain Township has adopted a resolution establishing Colerain Township as a Hamilton County Public Health District We Thrive community, supporting the understanding that a community's overall health impacts all sectors, including residents, businesses, employers, schools, and community-based organizations where people live, work, learn, and play. Whereas part of the We Thrive community, Colerain Township will participate in health assessments, identifying opportunities for improving the overall health, safety, and welfare of the residents of Colerain Township. Whereas a healthy community is a strong, thriving community. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Colerain Township, Hamilton County, Ohio, as follows. Number one, Colerain Township hereby recognizes the importance of partnering with the Hamilton County Public Health District to review community health data and prioritize community needs in an action plan based on data findings. Colerain Township will conduct a review of community health data every 5 years to identify and prioritize community needs with the support from Hamilton County Public Health District. Number three, that Colerain Township will implement community programs, conduct education or awareness campaigns, and/or adopt policies when appropriate to address community needs identified through the community health data review and prioritization process. Four, it is hereby found and determined that all formal actions of this board concerning and relating to the passage of this resolution were taken in an open meeting of the board, and all deliberations of this board and any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were taken in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Number five, that the board by a majority vote hereby dispenses with the requirement of this resolution to be read on 2 separate days, and hereby authorizes the adoption of the resolution upon its first reading. I ask for the board's approval.
So moved. Second.
Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Peters?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Sorry, I can't type one name and say another.
And one final note in respect to this initiative, it will include a 5-year planning process on identifying short-term and some long-term action, but we'll be working on a 5-year strategic plan as associated with community health that ties right in line with our public safety's strategic plan timetable, so we can work those three into a 5-year vision, so they're all correlating at the same time. So that's what we're really excited about that. On behalf of the Department of Public Services, respectfully request the board's approval for an agreement between the Colerain Township Public Services Department and the Magnolia Woods subdivision on Thompson Road to provide snow removal during this time of construction for the Fisher Home community. There are already homes built on that. There are people moving in and living there. And the department is a matter of practice to enter into these agreements. The resolution was passed late last year. This subdivision was not on it. We asked for the board's approval for this specific agreement for the Magnolia Woods community.
So moved. Second. Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Mills is here.
I'll take this one. He's requesting a public hearing for Chick-fil-A at 5:30 PM on February 24th.
I will gladly make that motion.
I'll second.
Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Aye.
Ritter?
Aye.
And administration?
Yeah, my next item is recommend approval of a contract with New Media Frontiers for technology upgrades to the audiovisual capabilities in trustee chambers at a cost of $12,000. This request did go before the Financial Advisory Committee and was included as part of the 2015 tax budget. And basically, it's going to be technology that's going to allow us to plug and play from our seats out here instead of having to go to the back room to bring up the audiovisual capabilities. If somebody comes and wants to do a presentation, it's my understanding they'll be able to actually do that from the podium and have that technology available to provide better presentations to our community. So I'd recommend approval of this contract.
We're working with Waycross to make sure that this all
That's correct.
dives. I'll make the motion to approve. A second. Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Ritter?
Aye.
Okay, the next item is for information this evening. I wanted to bring the board up to date on the steps we're taking to create a solid waste district request for proposal. As you can see on the screen here, as of right now, it appears that the first RFP that will go out will include Colerain, Springfield Township, and possibly Ross. Ross Township is still deliberating with their board, and they have requested representatives from solid waste to come to their next trustees meeting, I believe on February the 5th, before they commit to the process. But we primarily selected these particular entities because of their geographic location and the ease in dealing with the hauling of waste.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's important, I think, to get on the record. So there's, my understanding, there's several other townships interested in pursuing a waste district. And so what's the rationale for chunking it like we did with just, these two, and then maybe Delhi and Green? And
Absolutely.
And why wasn't more better?
And I will get to that in the next slide.
Sorry.
Yep, absolutely. No problem.
Shut up.
So the purpose of the RFP is to provide community with lower garbage and recycling services, create greater accountability over the surcharges and fees that are applied, increase community recycling, and greater accountability to the residents. Our timeline is to continue to work with Hamilton County Solid Waste, working with Nestor Consulting on the RFP. We anticipate the RFP will go out in the spring of 2015, with the results presented to the board and the community late 2015. Contracts would be awarded for the summer of 2015 with an anticipated implementation date of October 2015. But no later than February 16. And the reason that there's such a span there is that depending on who the contractor would be, if it would be a new provider, there may need to be an opportunity for them to gear up with acquisition of capital to be able to meet the needs of the contract. So we want to provide the greatest flexibility to get the greatest number of participants in the bid process to drive down the cost to our residents. That's the ultimate goal. So the townships that are interested in this process, and we've had a number of meetings, is Colerain, Springfield, Ross, Anderson, Sycamore, Sims, Green, and Delhi. So we had a meeting about 2 weeks ago, and to Mr. Ritter's point, oftentimes big isn't always better because of the geographic territory that has to be covered, the number of households that have to be covered. So looking at this and breaking this up in potential groups was something that was attractive to the solid waste district to try to get the best bang for the bucks, which is one of the reasons that we tried to group them in this potential groupings. The other challenge in this process is that to get the same level of commitment to all those interested varied. For instance, Springfield, Colerain, and Ross are looking at some specifications that might be more stringent than some of the other townships are willing to commit to. For instance, we believe to get the best price for our residents, an opt-out program, a general opt-out program is not in the best interest of getting the best price. Some of the other communities felt that the community residents should have a choice, and if you give that choice, it's going to drive up the cost because you can't get necessarily a bid on the entire number of households within the community. So as this RFP is going to go out, and we anticipate that down the road, Anderson, Sycamore, and Sims may do their own RFP with their own set of specifications, and Green and Delhi may do the same. We tried to group them in geographic regions that make sense. To provide an RFP to deliver services to Colerain, Springfield, and then possibly Anderson is going to be a little challenging because of the number of miles in between those various communities. So I give an example here of what the current rates are that are being paid in the various communities, and you can see that on this list, Colerain is one of the lowest here in the area. I think it's also important to point out that this does not include the surcharges and fees that are applied on top of those rates, and that is very important because I've had at least 2 phone calls in the last 2 weeks with residents that are concerned with why the surcharges aren't going down as fuel prices are dropping. And what we will do under this RFP is regulate what those fees are, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. As we have met with Hamilton County Solid Waste District, there is evidence out there that when you are a subscription community such as Colerain, you are going to pay more for garbage and recycling than you are if you're a contract basis, because the opportunity to provide greater service to a greater number of residents is going to drive down cost. So what we're looking at in this RFP is to provide a base fee, and that base fee will cover garbage, yard waste, although it's important to recognize that we are not proposing to compost yard waste. It will go to the landfill, but it does provide the opportunity for residents to address it by bagging it or bundling it to deal with leaves or sticks or et cetera. Curbside recycling. And then there will be an option for, or there will be a provision for a large item once a month in a designated week that you can dispose of, whether it be a couch, a mattress, things of that nature. There will be specific requirements on some items, such as mattresses and couches. Anything of a cloth nature would have to be wrapped in plastic before the hauler would pick that up due to bed bug concerns and things of that nature. But there will be an opportunity for residents to do those one large items a month as part of this fee. If someone chooses not to recycle, it's not going to change the fee. There is one fee for all these services. The garbage default service would be a weekly collection, one flat fee, unlimited bags, cans not to exceed 40 pounds each. However, we are looking to provide an optional discount for maybe a senior citizen or someone that doesn't use a lot of garbage, that they could provide one cart that would be provided by the contractor. It would be a reduced rate, and they would just have one can to pick up at a lower cost. There would also be backyard service provided for disabled. And then if you are a snowbird, there would be discounts available off the base fee during your absence at 75% of the base fee. Bid options are going to be looked at for recycling on a weekly and a biweekly collection basis, although right now our preference is to do weekly recycling as part of the garbage pickup. The recycling cart would be provided by the contractor, 65-gallon to all the residents. That would all be factored into the bid price. I think it's important to recognize that that cart would remain the property of the township at the end of the contract. The reason for that is we're looking at a 5-year contract. At the end of that contract, if we were to change providers, the cart is already there for recycling. You don't have to incur that cost a second time. Recycling is bundled in the cost of garbage, so there would be no discount for opting out. It's also important to recognize that should we choose to proceed with a contract for garbage and recycling, our recycling center at the back of 4200 Springdale would close upon implementation of this, because that's a cost right now that we incur to provide recycling. But if we choose to go recycling curbside, we would discontinue that service here at the back of our facility.
I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in for just a second. I live in a condo. We have dumpsters. I don't take my garbage to the end of the driveway and set it out, so we don't have the opportunity to recycle, right?
I'm going to get to that.
Okay. We should just all just shut up and let it
No, you're fine. You're fine. So some of the bulk item specifications, like I said, monthly collection, it's included in the cost of garbage, one bulk item. We will be discussing what acceptable items would be accepted. Optional service and hours. So backyard service would be available or a private drive, but that would be a service that would be offered at additional cost to the resident. So I'm guessing what that means because I really don't know. If I have a spring clean out day and I throw a bunch of stuff in my backyard, I could contact the hauler, pay them a fee to come and pick that up. There will also be restricted hours in the RFP that will be placed on haulers entering our residential subdivisions at all hours of the night. And I think what we discussed is that there would be no entry within a residential subdivision prior to 6 a.m. So they would do a lot of the main thoroughfares prior to 6, but actually would not go into a residential subdivision until 6. So we want to protect those early hours so that somebody's not showing up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to take out garbage. I know a letter was sent to the board today expressing concerns about us getting into this business and how you manage the cost of that. We are not trying to increase the work or the volume of the township. We're not going to get into the collection business. All we're trying to do is facilitate greater service at a lower cost to our residents. So this RFP will be set up so that the hauler will bill the residential units quarterly in advance, very similar to what's being done right now. There is an option in some of these contracts that you could contract with, like Cincinnati Water Works, to collect that. But what happens is the township would have to front load the cost to the provider, the hauler, and then get reimbursed through the collection process, and then the delinquency piece becomes a liability for the township. I'm not interested in doing that. So this would, even though it will impact the bid, we feel it's important that the hauler take care of billing and they take care of the delinquencies. Per the township resolution, all residential household units would be required to pay the base fee, as I indicated previously. There will be late fees assessed on delinquent accounts. Specifications will be established. There will be a cap in the RFP that the biller would be able to haul, or the hauler would be able to bill back to the resident. The contractor may discontinue service after 90 days, and a reactivation fee may apply. And then the contractor is also responsible for all collections. So once again, we're not in the business of collecting these fees. There will be some exemptions. Working farms, mixed-use owner-occupied properties. So if I have a residence and a business and I have a dumpster for my commercial property, I can be exempted. Documentation will be required. Where the employer provides a disposal outlet. Now, that doesn't mean that a resident can contract with another hauler because they work for another hauler, but that means that they could take their garbage to their work if the company allows for a provision for them to get rid of their garbage at their work premise rather than at their resident. Once again, documentation required. And then multifamily dwellings with 5 units or more attached. The issue with the condo association, any of those things that don't have curbside, that have dumpsters, that would continue as a commercial contract. Those type of situations.
I'm more concerned with recycling, because right now I have to bring my recycling here, so if you're saying this continue, and all the churches, I don't know why all the churches stopped doing recycling, but they've all the recycling bins in the area have disappeared all of a sudden. So I used to take it up to the church around the corner for me. Those are all gone. So if these are gone, I don't know where I would take my recycling, because I don't have the option of putting it out somewhere.
Sure. And right now, in your particular homeowners association, they provide you dumpsters so you don't do curbside trash?
No, it's all the condos have, there are houses, but the condos have dumpsters.
They all have dumpsters, but
Yeah,
not
there's like 2 or
recycling.
3 dumpsters in the neighborhood, yeah.
Okay. I'd have to look into that. I definitely understand your concern. It's just a matter of whether we want to continue the recycling center at a
Right.
cost. But I do understand that there may be certain situations there where we want to promote recycling.
Right.
It's just a matter of whether we want to continue that or not. We talked about the base fee. It's going to be fixed at the time of the bid. There will be no other environmental fees or surcharges that would apply to that price. There will be a provision that would allow for a fuel cost adjustment included in the specs, but it's going to be a formula, and that formula is going to work up or down depending on market conditions. So if this bid takes into an assumption that gas is $2.50 a gallon or whatever the case may be, there will be a formula that states that if it goes above, this is how it applies. It'll be, I think, a once-a-year adjustment and not every month, so there'll be an annual type thing based on an average. The other thing I asked them to take into consideration is not necessarily gasoline cost, but diesel cost, and then also alternative fuel cost. Because I do know that many trucks in some companies are operated off the fuel that may come back in the form of methane gas that may have a different cost formula that may be more advantageous for the homeowner. So we'll look at that as well. I indicated the fuel cost would be based on a previous year's diesel price, not diesel rice, for the geographic region on a 12-month average. We're looking at a service date preferred of October 1, but no later than February 1st. The requirements for protocols for missed pickups, spills, snow delays, holidays, complaint resolutions, employee misconduct, that would all be spelled out in the RFP. Once again, the accountability piece for non-performance would be there so that if residents aren't happy, there's a dispute resolution process as part of the contract that can be enforceable. And if the contractor is not able to respond to the bid appropriately, then there would be the reason to cancel and go to the next provider. And this actually came from Hamilton County Solid Waste as far as accepted recyclables and the benefits of recycling. So as far as public input, because we would be making a decision that's going to be a requirement for the residents, there will be an opportunity once the bids come in to have a conversation before action is taken. The RFP does not require us to proceed. I think the idea is that those that are going to participate are going to move forward with a contract, but ultimately you have to listen to your constituents, and we want to look at the price. The current hauler that handles most of the township residents will be permitted to bid on this. It'll be lowest and best bid, as with anything. But once again, the goal is to try to create greater service, greater accountability, and lower costs for our residents. So we will be coming back with you once the RFP comes in, and then we'll have an opportunity to discuss what those results are. And I'm sure Solid Waste District will be part of that conversation.
In your conversations with solid waste, I think that I see this as an aggregation program. The difference is there's no public vote, which puts the pressure on the board, which I think is okay. But we need to engage the residents on that so we see how this is going to be received. It'll be different than energy and natural gas, because the only change for aggregation was people's bill. Here, they may not have anything on their curb, and one day something's going to show up. My concern is not necessarily with the residents who just have garbage, because they can just throw the recycling bin in their garage or tell them to take it back. It's the ones that don't have service now that will have to have service and pay for it. Is there any statistic, and I don't know if Holly has this, on currently how many subscriptions are in the township and how many people don't subscribe to garbage service? I mean, I think there is some, even though it's Rumpke is the main provider here, I think there is some way that we can get a sense as to.
Yes, and I can't remember what that's. I want to say it's like 10%.
10% do not have
that do not have garbage.
And then a certain amount of those would be legitimate, take your garbage to your employer,
or commercial or something of that nature.
And then there's a certain percentage that are avoiding it for nefarious purposes.
And from a enforcement perspective, we even have challenges within our zoning department that people put trash out on the curbs, they don't have service, and we're having to deal with it because we're getting complaints from the neighbors that they're just throwing trash out there. So you're right. I mean, for some, it is going to increase their cost. For the majority, we anticipate it'll be a decrease. So the vast majority of our residents would more than likely pay less under a contracted basis and get greater service because they'll have curbside recycling available to them.
And I mean, this township should have some incentive to recycle aside from the list. I mean, it's not going in our landfill.
Correct.
Which is in our backyard. So,
and I think it's noteworthy to say that right now our recycling rate is pretty low in this township, one of the largest townships in the state of Ohio, and we have a landfill in our township. But because residents are charged a fee for recycling, we have a pretty low rate, and we've seen significant increases in recycling rates in other townships like Columbia Township that have done the solid waste contracting. And I think that, from the residents' perspective that are concerned about the growth of the landfill, if we can increase our recycling to 20%, something like that, then we're also decreasing the amount of product that goes into our landfill.
I think the other thing I just want to make sure that's stated for the record is that this township will generate $0 in any kind of franchising fees or anything as a result of this arrangement. Even though that's an option that can go into the RFP and some communities may choose to take that, we are not. This is strictly a process of trying to drive costs down to our residents and to provide greater accountability and greater service. So as a township, we're trying to facilitate a process that might make sense. That decision is yet to come, but we will receive no money whatsoever as a result of this RFP.
There's a number of good case studies in our county alone that have tremendous savings on something like this. I mean, I'm comfortable that I think that when the bids come out that you'll see that recycling and garbage cost will be less than probably what just garbage costs. I mean, I think that's where it's probably going to fall. Maybe I'm being ambitious on that. But just to be clear, there's no added layer of administrative component to this for the township. We may have some informational questions and maybe some calls in the transition, but after that point, it's a private company providing waste service to a community instead of just on an individual basis.
That's correct. And because we're able to enforce the RFP, we can hold the waste and the hauler accountable for the surcharges and the fees and to protect the residents. Right now, their option are cancel that hauler and go with another. And I will tell you that the market out there is you pay a surcharge with this fee, or you may pay a 30% upcharge for this hauler. To be able to state that and be able to evaluate that in a bid process and be able to hold that accountability there for this 5-year period, I think is going to be a very huge benefit for our residents going forward. Once again, I think I can't say this enough. this decision to move forward with an RFP, although I'm not asking for you to approve this because you've already done that in a resolution for us to do our due diligence, is that we will come back with bid in hand. We will know what the cost is going to be for the Colerain residents. I'm going to encourage at that meeting where we discuss this for the residents to bring their bill with them and to be able to compare the costs that they're paying now compared to what the new RFP price will be. And then we'll have a decision to make.
Great.
Thanks for your work on this.
Is there anything further tonight? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Aye.
Everybody have a good evening.